Welcome to the Path Podcast, where we will travel the lives of some bold women, from dreams to detours to destiny. She did not choose this path chose her. This is the Path Podcast. Welcome, everyone, to episode 7 of the Path Podcast. If you're listening for the very first time, my name is Arlene Bowden Corlea, and this is the podcast where we teach and share what I call the Path Survival Guide on how to overcome obstacles when life happens, whether it's due to a divorce or end of a serious relationship, to a health diagnosis, losing a loved one, or a business or career that is not going the way you thought it would have. Today is one of my many solo episodes that I will pop in to do every so often to recap, motivate, and encourage with some of what I call the survival guide tips when faced with obstacles. If you ask questions, I will use my solo episodes also to answer them in upcoming shows. So far, we've heard from some bold women who, despite their journeys and the obstacles they faced, found their authentic voice and started moving in purpose, and some just the freedom to be just who God intended for them to be. We have and will continue to bring on therapists and life coaches to help us navigate this journey to make sure we are covering all areas if you ever find yourself in a storm. Today, I will share a short story about myself that picks up from my very first episode and tells you a little bit about another obstacle I had to endure and what it meant, what it taught me, and just how I maneuvered through it. We have to admit, obstacles mean a lot of different things to different people, right? We all think differently. We respond to situations differently, and some of us come out of one obstacle feeling unscathed, while others need more time to move past their obstacles and learn how to deal with it. When you look up the definition of obstacle, it states that it's a thing that blocks one's way or prevents or hinders progress. Wow, much like the journey of the bold women you've heard so far and to come on the Path Podcast. I read an article that said your perception of obstacles makes a difference, which it does. Some people see obstacles as a puzzle to solve. Some see obstacles as an opportunity to grow, and others see obstacles as a threat. Still others see obstacles as meaning they cannot succeed. Your view of barriers to achieving your goals affects how you react. If you see obstacles as the world being against you or as meaning you failed, then you are likely to become overwhelmed with painful thoughts and difficult emotions when faced with blocks to your goals. The women I always try to bring on this show may have faced some of what I just read, but these women did not quit. At some point, they saw their obstacle as an opportunity to grow. The path we follow when I talk to these women, it goes into the hopes and dreams they've had for their lives in their earlier years. You know, the ones where we thought we had life all figured out. Then we move into a moment she faced an unexpected obstacle in her life, and it caused a detour that she didn't cause or create that was devastating. But through pain, struggle, some doubt, frustration, and fears, and I'm sure some tears, she ultimately rediscovered her voice, her purpose that moved her into destiny. We don't proclaim to have it all together. We just want to show you what it looks like when you don't give up, and that there is purpose in pain. Now that we understand that, I have a question for you. Are you walking in your purpose today? Have you found your authentic voice that speaks to the person you look at in the mirror daily? Are you doing what makes your soul come alive? Me and most of my guests didn't start out with that purpose-filled business or nonprofit or finding that our authentic voice until after an obstacle happened in our lives. I'm not saying it would be everyone that you hear on here, but the majority of the women that have spoken already and to come will tell you that they found purpose out of obstacles. And I love to say on this podcast, we did not choose this path. This path chose us. Don't look at us like we didn't go through what you might be going through right now. Because we're in chapter 20 of our story. We know what your chapter 1, chapter 2, and 3 feels like. Our struggle is a part of our story because it made us to be the women we are today. No one said that our paths would be easy. In my episode, I told you my story about losing my mother at the age of 12 and years later going through a divorce. Those events are part of my journey and have shaped me into be the woman I am today. An obstacle I did not share at that time was something that happened years after my divorce. It's when I was laid off 3 times in 4 years. Yes, you heard me correctly. I was laid off 3 times in 4 years. It was 2008 when the economy was tanking and everybody was, unfortunately, a lot of people were losing jobs and homes and different things. Each layoff was very scary to me, trust me, because when you were taught to work hard and you have your income removed while trying to raise a child, it was scary. The first thing I had to do, my first layoff wasn't the scariest to me because I received the severance package from the company I was with, and I kind of moved right into a new job in a different company. It was that second and third one that scared me the most. And when that second layoff happened, I had to really go into what I call survival mode. And the first survival guide I can give you is what I had to do was stop and take some time to observe what was happening. Because with that second layoff, I did not get a severance package. And I did the only thing I knew to do after I stopped to observe what was going on and what I needed to do. I prayed and I prayed some more. I don't profess to know the Bible inside and out like some people, but growing up in the church, I knew to call on a higher source that I always heard my mother and father speak about. Another survivor guide was to accept how I was feeling. Like Iyanla Van Zant would say, call a thing a thing. My thing was I was scared. When you identify your emotion, then you know what to pray for or ask for help for when you're dealing with these obstacles. Whatever you're facing today, just don't give up. The pain or emotion you're feeling is not permanent. You cannot develop strength without resistance. The third survival guide tip that I felt that helped change me was the perception of the obstacle. I would always repeat to myself, I did nothing wrong that was deserving of this, because I felt like I was doing great in the companies I've worked in, I would think. So I knew God didn't bring me and my daughter here to leave us in this state. In doing that, I did, in that second layoff, like I said, I didn't get a severance package, but I knew God to be my source. And after 3 months of going back and forth and tons of paperwork with my mortgage company, because as we know, that's the biggest expense we have, I got a letter 3 months later in the mail from my mortgage company telling me to pay only $5 a month for my mortgage. And yes, you heard me correctly, pay $5 a month. No way will I take credit for any of this. I just use what he gave me. This was all a God move right here. I did what I know to do, was use my mouth and the wisdom to inquire and have faith and wait on God to move on my behalf. I never gave up. I was determined to come out of this season, and that I did. 2 months after that letter, I received that letter from my mortgage company. I got a job. And I called the mortgage company to let them know that I would resume with my regular monthly payments. My guest and I all thought at the time of each one of our obstacles that we were in that it was the toughest times of our lives. Like you who may be listening to this podcast right now, but we didn't, again, ultimately give up. It's not what's happening around you, the breakup, the loss of a family member, the business, a bad doctor's report. It's really what's happening inside of you. Don't allow the diagnosis to become a death sentence out of your mouth. You must speak a life sentence over your body that you will live and not die. If you lost a loved one, like my siblings and I just lost our father in March of 2020. It hurt, and we miss him beyond words. But we could not give up or stop living. Besides, my dad, and I'm sure your loved one, if you're feeling this, would not want that for you either. I am my father's legacy and will be determined to make him and those gone before him proud. They've come too far and gone through too much for me not to live to my fullest potential. Turn your pain and your grief into honoring them. The path to healing is feel the feeling. Give it a name and pray about it, like I said earlier. If you're sad, ask God to remove that pain of sadness and replace it with warm, loving memories of your loved one. If you feel anxiety or you're done or you feel like you've been used, you must speak life again to your mind. Repeat after me, I have control over my thoughts and my life. Because your emotions will urge you to quit, to act impulsively or in rage or give up. And you cannot allow that to happen. The passive survivor guide, number 4 that I'll give is surround yourself with people who have accomplished what you're trying to overcome today. That's what the women on here do when they tell their story. They're to encourage you. And if you don't have someone in your corner that you can talk to, always come into this podcast, because we are always sharing a story that may have some connection with what you're dealing with. And seek therapy. God placed therapists here for a reason. Dr. Anita Phillips so brilliantly said it, and I quote, "Prayer is a weapon, therapy is the strategy." As I wrap up today's episode, don't forget, struggles will come. Stop and assess what's happening. Don't avoid it, but confront it. Accept your emotions, change your perspective, and seek help or talk to a close friend. And one more thing, avoid being hard on yourself with the would've, could've, should've. Don't beat yourself up if you've made mistakes. Be optimistic about the things that you are doing right now, that you're doing well. Journal your thoughts. After you've overcome the pain, there may be a book in your future to help someone else, and you can be my next guest on the Path Podcast. And don't forget to find a strong support system or seek professional help. I have and will have great therapists and life coaches I can refer you to, including myself, to fit your particular needs. It is my goal that we are all healed. My crown is not complete until every woman wears her crown confidently. Let me and my guests be your motivators, your confidence builders, the one who believes purpose is bigger than obstacles. Stay connected, because I have some powerful guests lined up with some powerful stories of their path to help you to know that you're not alone on this journey called life. If you're getting value from this show or have feedback, don't forget to download, rate, and leave a review on all major podcast platforms that offer it. You can also connect with me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at @thepath_podcast. To be a guest or reach out to me, you can also contact me at thepath.podcast the number 4, WARD @gmail.com. That's the path forward @gmail.com. Thank you everyone for listening. Until next time.